Hey, Nerd Society. Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into the biggest flops in DC Comics history, those storylines, characters, and projects that just didn't land the way they were supposed to. Some were ambitious failures, others were just outright disasters, but all of them left a mark in the worst way possible. Before we jump in, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our superhero content. Now, let's get into the biggest DC flops of all time. Joker 2. The most recent example of a DC flop is Joker, Folie à Deux, the sequel to the highly successful Joker, 2019. With a massive production budget of $190 million, expectations were sky high for its release. However, despite the hype surrounding the film, its opening weekend box office numbers were disappointing. It managed to earn only $115 million, a far cry from what was needed to make an immediate impact. This week's debut was surprising, especially considering the popularity of the first movie. The film's performance raised concerns about whether it would be able to recover in the long run. While it still has time to gain momentum, these early numbers suggest it may struggle to match the success of its predecessor. Some speculate that the musical direction of the film may have turned away a portion of the audience. Others believe the competition at the box office may have played a role in the underwhelming results. Regardless, Joker 2 is already shaping up to be one of DC's biggest financial risks. Supergirl, 1984. Released in 1984 as a spin-off of the Superman film series, Supergirl was intended to expand the franchise and introduce audiences to the Girl of Steel. With a production budget of $35 million, the movie aimed to capture the same magic that made Christopher Reeve's Superman a hit. However, it failed to impress both critics and audiences, struggling to generate excitement at the box office. The film only managed to earn $14 million, a devastatingly low return on investment. To be considered a financial success, Supergirl needed to make at least $70 million, but instead, it resulted in a massive $56 million loss. The film's weak script, lackluster action, and poor reception contributed to its failure. Despite starring Helen Slater in the lead role, the movie couldn't match the charm or appeal of the Superman films. As a result, Supergirl faded into obscurity, and the character wouldn't return to the big screen until decades later. Superman Returns, 2006. The 2006 reboot of the Man of Steel, Superman Returns, was meant to revive the legendary hero for a new generation. With a staggering budget of $232 million, Warner Brothers had high hopes for the film's success. However, despite earning $391 million at the box office, it fell far short of expectations. The studio had projected a profit of $464 million, meaning the film ultimately resulted in a $73 million loss. One of the biggest criticisms was its slow-paced story and lack of thrilling action sequences, which failed to captivate audiences. While Brandon Routh's portrayal of Superman was praised, the film struggled to justify its enormous budget. Its underwhelming performance led Warner Brothers to scrap plans for a sequel, forcing another reboot years later with Man of Steel, 2013. Superman Returns became a costly lesson for the studio, proving that nostalgia alone wasn't enough to guarantee success. Blue Beetle, 2023. Blue Beetle was the last origin film of the old DCU, intended to introduce Jamie Reyes to a wider audience. With a budget of $120 million, Warner Brothers hoped it would become a surprise hit and revitalize interest in DC's cinematic universe. However, the movie struggled to attract audiences, earning only $129 million worldwide. This disappointing performance left the studio with a massive financial loss. Originally projected to make a $240 million profit, the film instead ended up with a $111 million deficit. Despite positive reviews praising its heart and representation, Blue Beetle failed to stand out among the competition. The declining interest in the DCU, poor marketing, and uncertainty about DC's cinematic future all contributed to its underperformance. While Jamie Reyes remains a fan-favorite character, his big-screen debut ultimately became one of DC's biggest box office flops. Shazam! Fury of the Gods, 2023, the sequel to Shazam, had high expectations, aiming to build on the success of the first film. With a budget of $125 million, Warner Bros. Hoped for another lighthearted hit in the DCU. However, despite its efforts, the movie only managed to earn $132 million at the global box office. This was a massive disappointment, considering the studio had projected a profit of $250 million. Instead of being a financial success, Shazam! Fury of the Gods ended up with a $118 million loss. Several factors contributed to its failure, including weak marketing, fading interest in the DCU, and competition from other films. While Zachary Levi's performance and the movie's humor were praised, it couldn't recapture the magic of the original. Ultimately, the poor box office performance solidified Shazam as another DC franchise struggling to find its place in cinema. Catwoman, 2004. In 2004, Warner Bros. Made the bold decision to reinvent Catwoman with an entirely new origin story, completely disconnected from Batman's universe. Starring Halle Berry, the film aimed to showcase a fresh take on the character, but instead became one of the most infamous superhero flops of all time. With a budget of $100 million, expectations were high, but the movie was met with overwhelmingly negative reviews. Audiences and critics alike criticized its weak storyline, poor CGI, and lack of connection to the beloved DC mythos. As a result, Catwoman bombed at the box office, failing to gain traction with fans. It earned just $82 million worldwide, leading to a staggering $118 million loss when marketing costs were factored in. The film's failure made it one of the most embarrassing DC projects ever released, earning multiple Razzie Awards, including Worst Actress for Halle Berry. To this day, Catwoman is remembered as a cautionary tale of how not to adapt a beloved character for the big screen. The Flash, 2023. Released in 2023, The Flash was meant to be a major turning point for DC, resetting the cinematic universe and paving the way for a new era. With a massive budget of $200 million, Warner Bros. Had high hopes that the film would be a blockbuster success. However, despite its multiversal storyline and the return of Michael Keaton as Batman, the movie struggled at the box office. It earned just $267 million worldwide, a disappointing result for what was supposed to be a game-changer for the franchise. The studio had projected a profit of $400 million, but instead, The Flash ended up with a staggering $166 million loss. The film faced multiple challenges, including controversy surrounding Ezra Miller, weak marketing, and a general lack of audience interest in the dying DCU. Instead of revitalizing the brand, The Flash became one of DC's most expensive failures, effectively closing the book on the old cinematic universe. Its failure proved that even nostalgia and big cameos weren't enough to save a struggling franchise. Green Lantern, 2011, remains one of the biggest misfires in superhero cinema. With a hefty production budget of $200 million, the film was supposed to launch a new franchise around the iconic DC character, played by Ryan Reynolds. However, despite high hopes, the movie underperformed at the box office, earning just $220 million worldwide. Expectations were for a much higher return, with the studio hoping for a profit of around $400 million. Instead, Green Lantern ended up generating a loss of $180 million, making it a costly failure for Warner Bros. The film was criticized for its weak plot, poor CGI, and lack of chemistry between Reynolds and his co-stars. The disastrous performance led to the character being sidelined for over a decade, with no follow-up projects in sight. Despite Reynolds' later success in the Deadpool franchise, Green Lantern remains a haunting reminder of how a big-budget superhero film can falter spectacularly. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more awesome content. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these DC flops. See you in the next video.